about 20,000 crore rupees. Sidhant Sibal's report, DD News, New Delhi.
And for more on this, we are joined by our correspondent Sidhant Sibal from Newsroom. Sidhant, if we look at the decision today, what does this exactly mean?
Well, the biggest story coming out of the EGOM was the lowering of the reserve price. The GSM, it has already been lowered to 30%. The reserve price has been lowered by 30%. And for CADMA, which will now go to the cabinet, it is expected that the reserve price will be lowered down by between 30 to 50%. So clearly, the government wants to kind of rectify, in a sense, the second round, the round two of the whole auctions comes to a better ending, and government garners much of revenue. We saw the first round, which was on November 12th, lasted only for 2 days, and there were no taker for CDMA because of the fact that the reserve price was 1.3 times higher than the GSM reserve price. So GSM also, the last round got a lackluster response. Government was expecting to garner around 28,000 crore rupees. The government was only able to garner 9,400 crore rupees. So clearly, government wants that more investors this time come around in the whole auction thing. Well, I'll tell you another major thing which came was the date when the auction will be conducted. 11th of March is the D-Day for the GSM, which is the 1800 megahertz and the 900 megahertz band, where as the story told you, the circles which will go on auction in the 1800 Delhi, Mumbai, Karnataka and Maharashtra, which these are the circles which got no bidders in the last spectrum auction, which lasted for 2 days, and the 900 megahertz band, in which Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta will go under the hammer, in a sense, auction. For the CDMA, there is no date exactly when the auction will take place, but it is likely to be concluded by March end, which clearly means that the government wants the whole auction process to be concluded by the end of March.
And how has the industry reacted to it, Sidhant?
Well, of course, the industry in the last auction, which happened on November 2011, was saying that the reserve price is clearly very high. That is why there were no taker for the CDMA. Tata and Videocon were the two companies which had proposed their name that we will be bidding for the CDMA, but ultimately, because of the high reserve price, had withdrew in the last nick of time. In a sense, they withdrew that we won't be taking part. So clearly, this time around, the government, the industry is really chairing the decision which is taken by the EGOM, which can be seen in the stock markets also. The Idea Telecom company, its stock was at a 52-week high. Also, Reliance and Tata, their stocks were also high. So clearly, it's a thumbs up from the industry, and also industry body that's such as COAI and OSPI was saying that reserve price is clearly high. This time around, they obviously are cheering for the decision.
And if I ask you, what does it mean exactly to you, me, or the common man?
Well, of course, that is the moot question of how will affect you, me, and the common person. Clearly, I'll tell you, this is one way by which government expects to garner the revenue for its purpose. The fiscal deficit currently government expects at 5.2%. The Kelkar report has said that the fiscal deficit for this fiscal will be 6.1%, which is clearly very high. Fiscal deficit is the difference between your expenditure and the revenue. The expenditure is very high, as we all know, but the revenue sources have been drying up primarily because of the fact that the global slowdown. Now, the government is vouching on two processes by which it can gain more revenue. One is, of course, the disinvestment process, which comes under finance ministry. The other is the auction process. First round of the auction, from which the government was expecting much revenue, no revenue, in a sense, 9,400 crore rupees. This time around, the government expects much of revenue, which will help it to bridge, in a sense, make the fiscal deficit come down. Well, how does fiscal deficit affects you and me? Higher the fiscal deficit, higher the inflation. Higher the inflation, of course, it affects you, me, and the common person. From this, if the revenue is high, the fiscal deficit will come down, and it will reduce the inflationary impact, and will help bring down the inflationary pressure on the Aam Aadmi.
All right, Sidhant, thanks for all those latest updates.